Going through all the footage for this series made me realize how much of an improvement is Underworld from the first two games in every section and reaffirms what I will talk about in this video. In just 2 years, the graphics are miles better than Legend. However, the biggest improvement is in the gameplay. Controls are refined, the camera is less of an issue, and the best part is it combines the best of the previous two titles, the action from Legend and the levels from Anniversary. Let's dive in and see how Crystal Dynamics finished the trilogy. The gameplay stays mostly the same, but with some very welcome improvements. For starter is the shooting. It's still auto-targeting the enemy, but if you dual wield and there is more than one on screen, it automatically shoots 2 targets. Dual wielding makes a game more awesome. You're often outnumbered, so why wouldn't you shoot 2 NPCs and look like a badass in the meantime? The second addition to the gunplay is that you can choose your secondary weapon: submachine guns, shotgun, assault rifle, spear gun, tranquilizer gun. They are extremely useful and powerful, but have limited ammo. Then you have to revert back to Lara's trusty pistols. Technically speaking, it's almost the same as Legend, but I think I actually prefer it than picking up secondary weapon from a dead enemy. At least I know in advance what I carry and I'm not in the mercy of the game. It works here. I never used the tranquilizer gun. It didn't make sense. I'm not going to try a stealth playthrough. I used the spear gun just once on the first level and it wasn't my choice. It was an underwater level and it doesn't suck. This was before the game introduced you can choose a secondary weapon. It's great for sharks, not so great for other type of enemies. It has slow firing rate and doesn't stagger enemies like the other weapons. There is one more, but it's in spoiler territory. I'll save it for later when I get to the story section of the video. The others are great, but the shotgun is the best. It just blows everything away and can drop on the ground most enemies, giving you a breathing space. It's just awesome. The gunplay in Underworld made me realize something, why I didn't like the shooting in the first 2 games. It's the weapon sounds. The previous 2 games, they were weak, felt like toys. Underworld offers more meaty sounding weapons that pack a punch. I would still prefer manual aim, but I'm sure if Crystal Dynamics went on that road, the trilogy will lose its charm and probably Lara's mobility. Another slight change from Anniversary is the slow motion diving headshot. When you get your adrenaline high, you can one-shot kill enemies, or do a massive damage. They're almost identical. However, I never experienced it. I don't even know how to perform it. If you could tell what this rectangle to what button correspond, I would appreciate it. The game has a quirk that took me a couple of hours to figure out. The rectangles appear because, before playing, I changed my input language on the keyboard from English to my native, Cyrillic. Underworld doesn't recognize it, so it can't display the buttons properly. Never ever I've heard about such a thing, let alone experience it. Even the buttons in the controls menu disappeared. Wait, what did I say in the first video? However, I encountered one bug that was actually game breaking. My button stopped working, and when I entered the controls options, they were almost all gone and I couldn't rebind them. I need to test this theory. It's exactly the same. I guess the game doesn't recognize the language that it doesn't support. I find it fascinating and frustrating. Another small thing I like added to the combat is Lara kicking enemies. It feels natural, gives you distance, saves some ammo while dealing damage, and Lara looks like a badass, especially when you're kicking supernatural creatures. The platforming and Lara's moveset are expanded a bit too. For starters, now we have a sprint button, which is greatly appreciated. Dodging, jumping, climbing feels more exciting and fluid. Instead of leisure walk through uncharted territories, Lara moves and runs through the big levels much faster, and it's a welcome addition. In general, the game feels slightly faster than the previous two, and this makes it more thrilling and engaging. After all, this is not a realistic game, and this improves the flow of the gameplay, makes it faster and snappier. You can also climb on top of broken pillars or poles, climb on specific walls, get up and walk on tight ledges, etc. This adds a great deal of versatility to the platforming. In my humble opinion, in terms of level design, puzzles and graphics, Crystal Dynamics are on top of their game with Underworld. Graphically, it's the best looking of the three. Everything is much smoother and more polished in terms of architecture, feel and look. The first level is underwater and it doesn't suck. It leads to underwater ruins. The light is limited, everything looks wet and a bit claustrophobic. There Lara has to deal with a giant blind octopus. After that, the adventure takes her to the jungles of Thailand. They are packed with dense vegetation, overtaken ancient ruins, where these four-legged wall-climbing creatures are hunting her. There is also an entire level set in a catacomb beneath Croft Manor, full of bats, monsters, cobwebs and puzzles. All levels are beautifully designed, some are tight and packed, others are big and grandiose with great sense of scale. The light is also improved, gold rays falling between branches, torches illuminating whetstones, limited light sources making the tight spaces more claustrophobic, etc. It really sells the atmosphere. As much as I enjoyed the game, there are still some bugs that got in the way. For starters, the camera. It's still pain in the ass and you have to rely on leap of faith from time to time. The checkpoints are again generous, so I won't lose much progress. Another issue is the character getting stuck in the environment, objects going crazy, and all sorts of little niggles. It's lacking some polish, but considering the time the studio had to develop the game, it's not surprising. Those little things don't bother me that much. However, there were two infuriating bugs. Early on in the game, you have to carry these stone cubes to put on a moving plate. It's essentially a switch. This happens every single time. After the collision with Lara, it goes wild, and like an ex-colleague used to say, a simple job turned into a nightmare. I found a way to circumvent the issue, but it's tedious. Throwing the cubes. You can throw stuff, and this is the only place it's useful. The most rage-inducing moment was a very simple task: pull this statue. No matter what I did, Lara refused to do it. Moments like these make me doubt if I'm on the right way, and I stopped playing just to check a walkthrough on YouTube. This happened only once, but after that there were a lot of moments making me wonder if I'm doing something wrong because of this. Out of frustration, I just started spamming the pull button and the statue fell. There is something that hasn't changed in all three games and continues to be excellent, and that's the soundtrack. This time Charles Fallman is the music supervisor and the composer is Colin O'Malley. The soundtrack leans more towards using orchestral music with a lot of choirs. I'm a sucker for choir in a soundtrack. When the music slows down, it can be kinda creepy in some cases. Very good ambient tracks. However, when the scene requires epicness or there is intense action, the choir and the orchestra just step it up. It's different from the previous two games, but it's no surprise. The whole tone of the game is different, often being dark and moody, so a different approach is required. The soundtrack evolves as all games evolve. The game starts with a massive explosion in Croft Manor. Lara tries to find her team and escape. Upon reaching Zip and her butler, Zip pulls out a gun and starts shooting Lara. Then the game cuts to a week early. We see Lara somewhere in the Mediterranean Sea looking for Avalon and her mother. Under the sea, she finds a temple designated as the World of Mist, or Niflheim, Realm of the Dead, the equivalent of Avalon. This sets her on a path of discovery that will have the answer she's looking for, whether she likes them or not. Underworld continues the story where legends stop. Lara still hasn't found her mother, and now she's on a quest to find a set of ancient artifacts that will help her. But in the end, the journey becomes more than that. Some familiar foes show up to mess up with Lara. What I like here is how it connects the previous two games and changes the setting. It feels fresh and there is a compelling reason why these different real-world mythologies are connected. Including Norse mythos was a smart move. I don't think even at that time we had games that include Norse mythology. It keeps the story intriguing by offering something new compared to the other two games. In tone, it's a bit darker. However, this led to another scene that tries to hit the feelings with me not caring. There isn't enough context for the player to give a rat's ass what's happening. I like where the whole overarching story goes. It's clear that the plot was the important component of the finished project. There are more cutscenes, but they don't interrupt the gameplay. The studio had to tie up the previous games and they did a great job. Now, if you want to go blindly, not knowing the plot of Underworld, I suggest skipping time on the screen. After the initial surprise of Zip shooting Lara, the game takes us a week earlier and we find Lara on a boat somewhere in the Mediterranean Sea on her way to dive and search for Avalon.
Hey Lara, find it yet?
Patience, Zip. I warned you that conveniently undiscovered islands would be scarce in the Mediterranean.
Are you sure this Eddington chap knows what he's talking about?
If he says father was convinced the path to Avalon was here, I have no reason to doubt it.
Fair enough. But it's... well, we've been talking...
You've been talking, man.
Yeah, it's just... Alright, maybe Avalon is real, but just because some bad woman tells you your mother didn't die after all. I mean, look, I don't want to seem heartless, but this idea of your mum living in some Celtic underworld, it's a little bit mental, isn't it?
I have no illusions that my mother is holding court in some mythical paradise, Alistair. I only want the truth, whatever it may be. I'll ring you later.
She explores caverns and underwater structures. Eventually, Lara emerges in man-made cave. Going further and exploring, she reaches a stone door. Opening it reveals an interesting fact about the place.
Incredible. The carvings are clearly similar to early Germanic design, but this is far older than the 5th century, yet, strangely enough, more sophisticated. Proto-Norse runes. Let's see. World of Mist. That would be Niflheim, the realm of the dead. Not Avalon exactly, but the Norse equivalent.
Continue deeper into the temple-like structure and getting rid of a blind giant squid, Lara finds a very interesting artifact.
Thor, the Norse god of thunder. Whatever are you doing down here in Niflheim? According to the Eddas, Thor needed special iron gauntlets to wield his mighty hammer Mjolnir. Could it be?
She opens the gate, gets the gauntlet, but there is a surprise waiting for her.
Thor's hammer Mjolnir was powerful enough to level mountains. But how does all this relate to Avalon?
Put your hands on your head. Turn around. Slowly.
I don't suppose you'd be open to bribery. What do you...
Amanda Everett sends her regards.
Bloody hell.
Left for dead, Lara starts looking for an exit. She eventually finds it and surfaces close to her boat. Looking for answers, Lara boards the mercenary ship to take back what was stolen from her and goes full on assault mode. In the follow-up shootout, highly flammable gas is ignited, which leads to an explosive situation. Reaching deeper into the ship, she discovers Amanda and one old, presumably dead enemy.
Only Lara can use it now. Until I kill her. Even that won't unbind the artifact. We're taking on water. Damn it! We'll pick this up again later. I'm very pleased to see you again, Lara. This specimen jar offers little in the way of amusement, so I've grown fond of watching Amanda suffer the effects of sharing your interests.
Jacqueline Napa, you just don't know when to die.
A trait we have in common.
It was you who told Amanda about Avalon.
Our time is short, so choose your questions carefully.
What do you know about my mother?
The dais you and she found in Nepal, it's part of a travel network, so to speak. It took your mother to Avalon.
My father thought Avalon was below, but that's Niflheim. What's the Norse connection?
Ah, Richard found the wrong Norse underworld. Your mother didn't go to Niflheim. She went to Helheim.
Where is it?
I will tell you where it is, one day. But when that day comes, you'll need Thor's hammer to get inside. Perhaps you'll have better luck finding it than your father did.
What do you mean?
Your answer is on the west coast of Thailand. 7 parallel.
The ship starts to explode, so Lara rushes to get out. Lara arrives at the coordinates given by Natla and starts making her way to the thick Thai jungles.
None of the ruins are visible from down here. And if Father did explore this site, I see no sign of it yet.
I still don't see how Thailand is connected to Vikings, or ruins under the Meta, hell, even Avalon for that matter.
Helheim's it. Various myths use different names, but they all apply to the same remnants of the ancient world.
One of those remnants is still alive. I would hate to be Amanda if Natla ever gets free.
I would hate to be any of us.
She reaches an ancient temple ruin overtaken by nature and sees pillar describing the Hindu netherworld.
The characters are Vedic Sanskrit. They're severely weathered. Bhagavati of the 7th. It must be referring to the capital of Patala, the lowest infernal world in Hindu tradition. It's a netherworld populated by snake people, although the enlightened one, Narada, spoke rather fondly of it. That's Shiva on top. and his mistress Kali is down below.
Moving forward and down to look for a way to continue her journey, Lara eventually finds her way to go beneath the statues, only to reach stone carvings on a wall. Then the gauntlet starts emitting light.
See where the rumours of Thor's godlike strength came from.
This is the power of the gauntlet. She opens the door and there is a path leading to a tree shined by the sunlight. There she stumbles on an interesting discovery regarding her father.
This was here long before the upper temple was added. Proto-Norse runes again. My son, your treasures here and far, this gauntlet's twin, your belt Megingjord, and the mighty Mjolnir, are protected by the dead to keep Jormungandr subdued. But the map's been destroyed, and recently. If one of Thor's gauntlets was here, it's gone now. What's this? Natla, I see your goal and am your puppet no longer. Richard James Croft. Father did this? RJC. Strange. Father never used his middle initial in monograms to avoid confusion with his father. That's where you hid the artifact. You sly old fox. Now, if I can just make it back to the boat.
This part is actually pretty cool. You use the gauntlet to move these big stones to solve puzzles and feel like the mighty Thor. As soon as Lara walks out of that area, the gauntlet stops working. There must be a way to charge it. She swims back to the boat and contacts her team.
Find anything?
There was a map, but Father destroyed it.
Well, the acorn certainly didn't fall very far from the tree.
He did it deliberately, to keep the information from Natla. But I'm sure he recorded everything first, and what's more, he found Thor's other gauntlet.
Where'd he put it?
Right under your nose.
My apologies, Lady Croft, but I have not tended to the crypt.
Why didn't you ever tell us this was down here?
Yeah, I wish I still didn't know. You know what? I'll wait up here.
I did warn you that playing your music so loud could wake the dead.
This is creepy.
What makes you think it's here?
Father signing his name with all three initials was a clear reference to my grandfather. Light, please. Seems my father was full of surprises.
Down in the crypt is my favorite puzzle. Not because it's difficult, none of the puzzles of the game are, but because I find it different from others and cool looking. Anyway, reaching the end of the crypt, Lara sees on a table in front of her the other gauntlet and cassette tape recording left from her father.
Hello, Lara. Here in this room is everything we recovered from Bogavati, Thailand. Be especially careful with the thralls. They managed to kill 6 of us before we boxed them up. They were protecting one of Thor's gauntlets and a map showing where the rest of his treasures were hidden, all of which are necessary to open the way to Avalon. The Norse believed this site contains a powerful weapon, and to safeguard against this possibility, I destroyed the original map. I hope this was not a terrible mistake, but if it was, I hope you and your mother can forgive me.
The creatures Richard Croft talks about attack Lara, but she manages to gun them down. Now the game finally reaches to the point from the beginning, the manor explosion. Lara finds her way to Zip and the butler. Zip opens fire and tries to kill her.
Look out!
Stop! It's Lara!
I know!
Drop it, Zip, or I'll drop you.
What, so you can shoot me again?
It wasn't Lara. Why would she set fire to her own home?
She got into the vault. It had to be her.
Is that what happened here? Someone blew open the vault.
All right. Say it wasn't you. Someone who looked a hell of a lot like you opened it using the retina scanner.
Impossible.
Exactly.
Then what happened?
She got away with Amanda's race stone.
Where's Alistair?
We haven't seen him.
I'm going to the tech room to watch the security video. You two get out before the roof comes down.
Lara goes to the security room and sees something deeply disturbing.
Lie still.
I'll see you.
Alistair, hold on!
See you in Avalon.
Damn it!
This is the cutscene I was talking about earlier. To care, I need to get familiar with whoever is dying. To this point of the game, you've heard Alistair talking a few times and that's it. No development for him. It's a shame really.
No.
What the hell was that thing?
I've only seen something like it once before. A doppelganger that Natla sent after me years ago. That one didn't have a mind of its own.
But how could Natla have sent it if she's Amanda's prisoner?
They're a team of sorts now. Amanda and Natla, her pet Atlantean god.
What are we going to do?
After I deal with the authorities, I'm going to southern Mexico to retrieve Thor's belt.
What? Alistair's dead and it's just business as usual?
I need Thor's belt to get his hammer, and I need the hammer to kill a god.
After arriving at the supposed site where the belt probably is, Lara finds engravings and statue with the missing hand. This is actually for a pretty cool puzzle.
The Mayan calendar had only 360 days, and the remaining 5 were the unnamed days. The Maya believed that each year when the unnamed days arrived, the gates to the underworld would open.
After fighting her way through mercenaries and wildlife, she opens the gate to the underworld and drives straight through it.
Mayan hieroglyphs. The place of fear. It's definitely Xibalba, the Mayan land of the dead. The lords of Xibalba were said to kill visitors for sport by sending them into devious trap rooms.
After going through all the tests, Lara opens the gate that goes even deeper underground. She finds carving about the Midgard serpent and Ragnarok, the end of all times.
The Midgard serpent Jormungandr that lies on the bottom of the ocean, encircling all the world. Coming of Ragnarok. Jormungandr thrashes beneath the sea, flooding the land and vomiting its deadly poison into the air. The final battle of the gods. Thor kills Jormungandr with his hammer, Mjolnir, but then he retreats only 9 steps before he succumbs to the serpent's venom.
This is where the belt is protected by all the thralls, and Lara must navigate, shoot and platform her way to the prize. Now the only thing missing is Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. Lara goes on her way back to the surface.
Zip, I have everything I need to get Thor's hammer. Do you have better coordinates for me?
Yeah, I enhanced Dad's photos of the map. I'm uploading to PDA now.
And your other project?
Haven't tracked them down yet. I'm still working on it.
Very good. I'll call when I get to Jammayan Island.
Hey, you know that big expensive ship of Amanda's?
The one on the bottom of the Mediterranean?
Uh-huh, that one. She has a sister, the Tisiphone, anchored off the coast of Thailand. Looks like they're picking through your leftovers.
Excellent work, sir. Thank you. You've earned some rest. I'll take it from here.
Be careful. When you see Amanda, give her my regards.
After difficult navigation through the ice cave, fighting the frost giants from the Norse legends, the final missing piece is there for Lara to grab.
Thor, greatest of my sons, and the greatest weapon on Earth are at last reunited. Upon my return, through rituals old and the power of Mjolnir, together we will open the seals of Helheim and fulfill our destinies. Slayer of giants and the Midgard serpent. More importantly, the key to Helheim, wherever that is. Time to pay Natla a visit.
It's clobbering time. Lara goes to Amanda's second ship and just wrecks everyone. The hammer acts almost like Excalibur from Legend, but instead of shooting green laser or whatever it is, you just shoot lightning and there is an area effect strike. To be honest, it's way cooler than the sword, but I like the Excalibur design more. Anyway, Lara finds Natla and she wants some answers.
Avalon, Helheim, I don't care what it's called. Where is it?
Look at all you've done. Incredible. I will never doubt you again.
Tell me, now.
Very well. But before you put him to death, tell me, are you prepared to wait for Odin to appear and perform the ritual to open Helheim?
And you know this ritual, of course.
I'm sure you've realized that I want to get to Avalon just as much as you do. But neither of us can go alone. You need my ritual, and I need your hammer.
When you step out of line, you'll get it. Stop! You destroyed my home. You killed Alistair!
I got what I wanted. Isn't that all we care about?
You can die too!
Lara, you really are a woman after my own heart.
Get out of my sight.
Meet you there.
Coordinates left by Natla lead Lara to somewhere in the Arctic Sea. It turns out the Midgard serpent is an analogy for a device capable of destroying the world. That's why Richard Croft hesitated to open Helheim. But Lara wants to know the truth about her mother, no matter what. She blows a hole in the ice and dives in. She is at the gates of Helheim. Lara manages to catch up with Natla in this underwater temple. She shows her her way forward. continue chasing Natla, Lara discovers what she's looking for all those 3 games.
Mother? Mother, it's me. It's Lara. No. No. My mother is dead. My mother is dead. My mother died a long time ago. You're not my mother.
I've lived many times longer than your entire civilization, and I've never seen such delicious irony. When I heard what happened to the wife of the great Richard Croft, I knew I could set him on a desperate quest to find what I desired most. Then he betrayed me in Thailand, and for that, I killed him myself. But when you showed up with Thor's gauntlet, I knew I could send you off in your father's footsteps, confident they would lead us to this very spot.
You seem to have forgotten what I would be holding.
When I made this creature for Amanda, she had no idea that my true purpose was to have the means to destroy you at this very moment. The two of you never suspected that you were mere actors in my play. And so it ends. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a serpent to raise.
Trust me, I wanted to let it finish you off, but the Midgard serpent will tear the world apart, and only Thor's hammer can stop it. Go! I'll hold him off.
Shut it down!
Lara, unexpected, but I'm glad you're here. You should be allowed to see firsthand the fruits of your labor.
That's the Midgard serpent.
Of course not. Jormungandr is the network of tectonic ridges that encircles the Earth on the ocean floor. And we stand now on its weakest point, where the ancient supercontinent Pangaea first broke in two. When this relic unleashes its fury below, the very seams of the planet will burst. The Midgard serpent will rise up and spew poison into the air. All the world will be consumed by fire and ash. Ragnarok! The seventh age is upon us!
This is where everything ends. Lara has to destroy the pillars so she can stop the advent of Ragnarok. Now with Amanda out of the picture, Lara has very little precious time to act.
Not if you clear the corridor and get us out of here.
Out of juice, just like Bolivia. The good news is we saved the world. The bad news is now we're gonna die here. Huh, just like your mother.
Wait. Mother must have tried to use it to escape, but didn't know how. If pulling out these artifacts always brings you here, what will happen if I'm already here?
Maybe you'll go to hell.
The sword. But you can.
What about you?
I can reach you if you hold out your hand.
You trust me?
We're out of time, Amanda. So it's back to this, is it?
What? You think we're even?
Would killing me make us even? Goodbye, Mother. Rest in peace.
being tasked with reviving such an iconic franchise, and the expectation that comes with that is probably a daunting task. However, Crystal Dynamics nailed it almost perfectly. Legends feels like the studio are finding their footing. Anniversary was co-developed with Buzz Monkey Software, and you can feel the polish in any aspect. Underworld is where the studio stepped up their game. The graphics are way better, the gameplay is smoother, the story is a bit darker, but not edgy, and I like it. Levels are beautiful and even more diverse. They even hired the NCAA Women's Gymnastics Champion, Heidi Moneymaker, to do the mocapping for Lara, and you can tell the difference. In Legend, when Lara grabs a ledge, instead of tapping spacebar for quick climbing animation, you can hold it and she does this elegant move. Necessary? No. Cool? Yes. How about this? It doesn't even serve a purpose, but I'm doing it regardless. In Underworld, the studio added new animations. One cool thing I found by chance was when you run and there is a waist-high obstacle, Lara climbs on top of it so fast with proper spacebar pressing. Such a small thing, but it makes a big difference in the gameplay flow. I had tons of fun with the reboot of Lara's adventures, and probably that's why all those issues I had were frustrating. Now, to be fair, I might be just unlucky. Who knows? Even if that's the case, they still exist. Despite everything, the 3 games were worth revisiting. I enjoyed the most Underworld for its polish, but if I had to recommend just one, I would say go with Anniversary just because you can look at it as a standalone story and it's more focused on the gameplay. Other than that, I had no issues running them in widescreen, with one crash in Anniversary, and those bugs might be one-off thing and probably the result of 3 AAA games in 3 years. If you never played them, give them a chance. They feel substantially different than the 2013 reboot. They are more adventurous, colorful, not gritty and bound to realism. That's why I prefer them to the 2013 Tomb Raider game. As for the second reboot, let's call it that way, I've played only the first game, and any game that gives me opportunity to headshot NPC with a bow and arrow has my approval. I like the game but not so much as to cover it. And one last thing before wrapping the video. The first reboot often goes on sale for $1 each. There is no better time to go back and see Lara's past adventures in these linear focused games.